Hey, so hello everybody again. Back with episode 2 of the Smooth Stone Social Club. And we introduced ourselves in the last episode, but we'll quickly do it again. My name is Fisayo.
Ladies first, of course.
I thought you were still going to say something else. Oh, my name is Margaret.
Hi, and I'm Michael.
And we got another topic. And the topic it's fairly interesting, if you ask me. And I feel like there's going to be a couple of talking points regarding it. Basically, it is, as a Christian, what are our thoughts on the secular music industry? And should we listen to secular music? So, I mean, I can add a couple of points to start with. I can just come out and say that I do listen to secular music at the moment. There was a time where I didn't for a bit, but then I slowly found myself listening to it again, and now I do listen to it. But there is a lot of nonsense in secular music, and I don't know, people who don't listen to it, I can see their points and I can see where they're coming from. But yeah, that's just a little bit from me.
When you say secular music, could you kind of give a bit of a definition?
So I actually did look up what the word secular meant. I'll just find it again. And it means not connected with religious or spiritual matters.
Yeah.
Or not subject to or bound by religious rule.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my personal opinion, I think you're free to listen to whatever you want to listen to. It's all about how you use it to sort of, like, I can listen to like drill music, but I'm not gonna go out and then go kill someone. Or I can listen to like mad 1980s kind of like jive and swing, but it doesn't directly affect how I live my life, you know. I can enjoy those kind of, but it's also being able to discern what's being said to you. So sometimes there are certain songs you should just don't listen to. Songs which are like clearly saying, "Oh, worship the devil." No, that's a straight. That's a straight.
I don't know if I agree with that, but okay, you can continue.
Wait, so if a song is like 666, let's worship the devil, you're gonna be like,
go ahead. Go on. I mean, I don't think it has to be that direct. I think that there's music that has what you call tone to it, and it doesn't necessarily have to be that direct. It doesn't have to be like 666 in your face, devil worshipping. I think that music today, like, would you classify Cardi B as secular? Or would you classify that as music that you would classify that was okay?
That's what I mean.
I'm not a fan of that type of. I'm not a fan of her music, but not on the devil vibe, but more just on the vibe. Like, I don't like what she's talking about, and I'm not a fan of young people listening to that, or even anyone really listening to or engaging in what she's talking about.
That's what I mean.
That's it. So, yeah, go on, Michael.
But I was going to say, like, so you can listen to that, but it's then how do you let that affect you? So are you going to go out, or is it like you just enjoy the sound of it? Like, you enjoy like the beats behind it, you enjoy the actual like musical talent behind it. That's what I mean. So you can listen to it.
But there's when you say beats, the thing is that there's beats, right? What do beats of music make you want to do? Does it make you want to shake your ass? Does it make you want to... Do you understand? So you might not necessarily be listening to the music, the lyrics, but certain beats and certain rhythm makes you want to do certain sexual things or wants you to do certain things. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I debate that a lot because you find a lot of like modern Christian music still using those same kind of beats.
Yeah, I think that if you're self-aware, that I'm very self-aware, so because I'm self-aware, music doesn't get to me in that way, if that makes sense what I'm saying, especially non-secular music, secular music. I'm more of a like 90s kind of person anyway, so I like old school kind of music. So for me, all that music, like when you think back to your childhood and stuff, do you even remember half of the lyrics? You just remember like saying something and something, but you didn't really know that it was sexual. sort of. So I feel like, I don't know, for me, I disagree. I would say that if you're not self-aware, that kind of music is not music that you should be listening to. Only if you're self-aware.
So harking back to that then, I would say, if using me as an example, there was a time obviously I was listening to all types of music, and then the point where the church I was going to, someone came in with, I don't know if you guys have seen those videos or DVDs from back then where they're like, oh, look at all the symbology.
The woke people, yeah.
Rihanna was dancing in the rain, and
the woke
transformed and blah blah blah. And then that one, I was younger, but that one I was like, oh, this is all mad. So then I just cut out all of the. And the issue I faced was that gospel music is cool, but take gospel music out there. There just wasn't enough variation in like Christian music. Like the beats aren't as good. The lyrics aren't as good. The way it sounds, like gospel music is great, and that's one type of like Christian music. I like that. But then if you want to hear other types, it's just not enough. And then you'll hear the odd secular tune, and you're just like, oh my gosh, look at the beats that I'm missing, man. Look at the lyricism.
Listen, it's Kirk Franklin. He's got some good R&B. Our gospel is not all about.
That's what I said. But if you don't listen to R&B, or you don't listen to gospel. Let's say you want to listen to rap. Then you're
they've got gospel rap though.
A couple, but not 100, not 1,000, not like tens of thousands. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then there was a little scene in the UK. I remember there was like a UK Christian grime scene going on with like Governor B and Vic Tizzle and all of these guys. But then even they went through a quiet period, so I found myself listening to secular music. But there are certain secular musicians that I will not listen to. Like, I'm not really trying to listen to Cardi B.
Listen,
I'm not really trying to listen to little Nas X. I'm not, like, there are certain people that's just not on, and I will literally avoid listening. If they come on, I'll change. I don't even listen to Jay-Z. If they come on, I'll change the tune. Like, I'm just not trying to listen to it.
Yeah, I don't listen to Jay-Z anyway.
The thing is, I understand where you're coming from with like the whole symbolism thing, but I found that people can find symbolism in anything if they want to find it. In gospel tunes, they'll find symbolism and they'll make it look as if, oh, this is bad. And that's the thing, it's being able to discern it for yourself, being able to take what you're listening. So at a lot younger age, it was a lot more difficult that we were just listening to what was available. But nowadays, we can actually hear the lyrics, we can hear what they're saying. And if it is mad, easily turn it off. Like, I remember there was like a drill song where the guy goes something like, I'll kill this guy's sister for loving her brother or something like that. I'll stop listening to that. And it's like,
what kind of message is that?
Like those kind of messages, I could be like, no, I can end that. But it's like,
that's the extreme. See, that's the extreme. Like, I don't listen to that kind of whack music anyway. You know what I mean? Like, even when I listen to rap, it's not that kind of real rap. Like, that's too much. Like, there's no violent rap. There's no violent rap.
There is no.
Yeah. People are listening to drill though, and people are listening to that violent type of rap. And like, as Christians, should we listen to that? Like, I don't really listen to a lot of drill because I don't really like it. But there are some drill artists that come up with like a big tune and that I'll hear, and I won't change the song. But should we be listening to that music at all?
Well,
because it's promoting violence in some, and not all of it, but a lot of it promotes violence.
What do you classify Stormzy as? Is that drill?
No, I wouldn't say he's drill. He's more like grime or rap.
He would call himself the king of drill, though.
King of grime, eh?
He's reaching still, if he could.
Nah, I'm not gonna lie. I bought Stormzy's album, and he's got some prayer songs on there as well, you know. So I like Stormzy's album. Like, I could listen to that kind of. I don't listen to that drill music. Is just too mad for me. Like, I just can't get into that whole zone.
I think I agree.
He just did that whole. I'm sorry, but I just can't get into that noise. It's just noise.
Okay, just to go off the back of that, do you feel like the whole Stormzy gospel thing is a persona that he's actually just using in order to sell more?
I mean,
yeah, go on, Margaret.
Whether he's using it or not, the message is clear. So for me, me, whether he's using it as a platform or he's not using it for a platform, the fact is that how many millions of children bought his album versus, do you know what I'm saying?
But is that a good thing?
Positive. Though? I think it's a good thing. I mean, you've got to remember, like, there's not that many role models out here, let's be realistic, especially not in the rap game. I don't think people, when they do rap, they intend to be role models. I think it's just an intention to make money. And in that respect, whether he's intending to genuinely be gospelized or become like a gospel kind of guy or not, I don't think personally, I don't think it really matters. I think what matters is that you've produced gospel, you've produced something positive, and people have bought it and they're into it. So whether you've intended or he's not intended, whoever's bought the album has bought it based on the fact that they like the music, they like the message, and they're listening to what we need them to listen to, or what the Christian theme should be listened to. Does that make sense? I don't know if that makes sense. But yeah.
Going off the back of that, then I agree in part. So I do feel like the fact that it would be disappointing to hear him come out and say, "Oh, I was only using gospel to push sales or whatever." But whatever the case is, it's still in the music, and the message still gets across to whoever's listening. The only then issue I have is if he's going to put music like that out, where it will come on a Christian vibe, you then need to portray yourself like in your wider world and your wider living as living sort of a Christian life, because if you sing and you rap and you put elements of Christianity in your songs and you're saying praise God, etc., but then on the outside you live a very like gangster lifestyle, you talk like you're involved in crime, etc., then the two aren't marrying up, and that's not going to be a good look for. And no one's saying you're the spokesperson for Christianity, but if you've got this huge platform and you're going to put Christianity in your tunes, then you need to marry up the two things. And to be fair to him, he doesn't really seem to have that sort of a gangster lifestyle. So
no, does he? Like he to be fair, he's kind of adapting to what I agree with you, but at the same time I disagree, because I feel like these are people, young men that have come from the streets. Do you get what I'm saying? And I feel like people are relating to their struggle. If they're automatically a Christian, if they're automatically like this or this perfect being that has no faults, you're not really realistically telling a genuine story. So I feel like in Stormzy's situation, he's still portraying himself. Look, this is who I was this rap boy, I was in the streets, I am still that kind of person, but I'm not violent anymore, I've changed now, I'm coming up. And I feel like that's the message he's portraying. I don't feel like he's portraying, yes, you're right, he's probably not portraying like the very Christian life, but I feel like you're trying to give a message to these young ones that, look, you can be from the streets, but life doesn't always have to be negative and bang, bang, bang. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, and I feel like he's doing it well. I think sometimes it's best not to bite off more than you can chew. And I don't think he's at the stage in his life where he's developed his Christianity or his faith to that level. I feel like he's done a good job so far. Could he do better? Yes. You know, could he be a better role model? Definitely. But I feel like it is a lot of pressure as well to be able to go against the norm in the rap industry as well, because he's going against what would be the traditional norm in that industry, which is the gang, 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 or the hose, 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 hose. You know what I mean? And it's against the traditional norm already. It's a big thing for him. Do you know what I'm saying? To be honest, it's a big thing. I mean, it's not easy.
I agree. Like, you know what? He set a trend with what he was doing as well.
Yeah.
A couple artists after him have come with like a Christian. When Getz released his album, he was talking about his faith and his walk with God and how it's changed over time. So I think Stormzy, who was in the secular side and then brought out an album that had gospel elements, he was one of the early ones to do that. Obviously there was another scene of rappers that were actually Christians who were rapping like Governor B, etc., who were doing that. But it was good to see that from him, and that's more of the music I would say for Christians is probably maybe a bit more acceptable to listen to.
So would you say Craig? Oh, sorry.
I would say that the Storms, the artists that are trying to implement elements of gospel or Christianity in their music is more acceptable to listen to than artists who are just out here talking a whole bag of nonsense. and appealing to. And the thing is, sometimes it's interesting to listen to, and you do sort of get yourself sucked into. But we're older anyway, as Christians. What about younger Christians? How would that affect them listening to somebody talking about how many bodies they've caught, this and that, blah blah blah, how much money they've made from selling drugs, etc., etc. Like, how does that affect them? Like, should they be listening to it?
Oh, I think it's a difficult one to say whether they should or shouldn't be listening to it, because it's kind of like you can't shield them away from the reality of what the world is, and that is what it is. That is their reality, and we can't really be like, oh, they shouldn't hear about this or they shouldn't hear about that, because that's when they grow up and they have no understanding of that is even real life, that is some people's real lives, and they end up having that kind of same way of disregarding that their reality as being something that's true. And that's a lot of things you do find with like older white people. Like, they will just disregard this kind of like, oh, they had a choice, they could have gotten out of this lifestyle if they wanted. But through their music, you can actually understand that for some of these people, it literally is the only way of life which they were given. So I don't think we can say they shouldn't listen to it or they shouldn't, but it's a lot more about making sure there's more of a conversation about what is happening with this music, like, and just actively trying to help those people who are trying to make this music. So give them more platforms, like more festivals, give them opportunities to go to like the bigger festivals, and that way they even though they might have started out in that lifestyle, you've shown them and you've shown the people who listen to them that if they do like a grind, if they work hard at their music, there is a way out of it. That's what I feel. Like,
to me, I sort of agree. I feel like for me, as long as, like, for me, when it comes to just trap music in general, I'm not even a fan. But okay, let's even start from the whole drug selling and all that. If your music is just purely based on selling drugs and, you know, getting women and all that, that is trash. I'm going to call it how I see it. It's trash. Do you understand? But if you've got music that you might have said in the past, this is my lifestyle, now I've come up, I've made it now, and I'm trying to be a bit more of a positive influence, and your direction is a bit more positive. I mean, not necessarily Christian, but positive. Do you know what I'm saying? Then, for me, then I think that you could get a pass with that. Do you understand? But if I'm just hearing bang, 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 hold this, I catch these girls, that, and I'm not seeing nothing, like, where are we going with this? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, for me, where we go, I can't even listen to that kind of music anyway. Like, I'm not in, like, if your music has no point, basically, it's pointless. It's just trash. Because that's, you know what I mean? Then I don't see how that is relevant for the younger generation. The younger generation I do think that they need rap music, because for me, that's their poetry. That's their way of explaining their story, their upbringing, like Michael said, their way of life. But I feel like it should have a positive message behind it. Not necessarily Christian, but it should have a positive message behind it. It can't just be all hoes and money and this and that. It's got to be something positive. Do you know what I'm saying? And if there is a positive message behind it, like this may sound a bit contradictory, but one of my best rap albums, and I don't even like rap music, but one of my best rap albums was actually Dr. Dre 2001. And I know that's very controversial because people will be like, whoa, he's talking about the ganja, this and that. But if you actually listen to the album from beginning to end, it's actually a very positive album, because he talks about, you know, his friends always dying. He doesn't want to be a part of his lifestyle anymore. He doesn't want to be in these silly parties anymore where people go in, they don't come back out alive. It's just childish for him. Like, he's got a family now. He doesn't want to live in that world anymore. You know, the younger generation needs to come out of that now and stop all this childish behavior, stop killing each other unnecessarily and stuff like that. So for me, I relate to that more. I'm not into the whole, you know, that whole, you know what I mean? It's just, I'm not in it all that. And I don't think it's a good message for the younger generation. And I don't think the younger generation should be listening to it. Now, all this drill, I don't even understand what this drill music is. I ain't even trying to be disrespectful to drill, but I can't see, or I haven't heard, I could be wrong, I haven't heard any positive drill music. So grime, yes, Drill, no. I haven't heard any positive drill music. It just reminds me of that Channel U channel that you used back in the day. That music, that pointless music. To me, I call that pointless music just make noise. It's just noise. Everyone just wants to be on TV, 10 man in the video, all this about hoes and money. That's it. It's just noise. How is that positive to me?
I think there's two sides.
Yeah.
It was mentioned before, like there is the side of, oh, if you work hard at this music, you can change your reality.
Yeah.
And get a new reality. But the only thing I would say is that all the things that you listen to feed your spirit. So if you are, not even people making music, just the people who are listening, if you are listening to music that is very violent, like, inadvertently you're feeding your spirit with violent things, whether you like it or not. So how the only way not to do that is to not really listen to violent music, or would you say no?
I agree. Yeah, I do actually. I agree that music does feed your soul, positive and negative. But I do think that if you're one person that's self-aware, it doesn't necessarily. But the majority of people today are not self-aware. So the truth of the matter is, it is going to feed their soul. So I do agree with that. I think as well, I would say probably, I could be wrong, shoot me if I'm wrong, I feel like younger men are more impressionable than younger women when it comes to this kind of music as well. So they're more likely to want to act out. I don't know, I could be wrong, but they're more...
Their chicks be making bum on Insta and Twitter and doing all types of madness. That too, but, you know, the gang violence, you know,
I
hear that, but I'm seeing loads of cheek shaking everywhere, and I wasn't seeing that before. So,
I've always hated that argument that, oh, it's the violence music which is making you violent, or the violent in games which is making you violent. I feel like the violent people were going to be violent. Like, if you look back to the games we used to, because like I used to play like wrestling games or watch like MMA and stuff like that I've never had the inclination to go out and go fight someone. I listened to those kind of rap music, like DMX used to be one of my favorite rappers growing up. I've never had the inclination to go out and do madness. It's the person themselves, and it's hard to say, oh, you can just ban this kind of music and it'll help. If those people are going to be violent, they're going to be violent. If people are going to go out and shake bum, they're going to shake bum.
I don't know about that. I disagree with that strongly. And I say this to say that...
I see people shake bum to Christian music. How can you say that?
Don't mind those people there. Those people there, they're not well. But what I'm talking about... what I'm talking about is like...
Hearing Bello.
Those people, they need Jesus. There's a whole different breed of people there. We're not
shaking bum to revolution.
No, we're not even going to touch on those ones. Those ones need deliverance, strong deliverance, so they will sink them down. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about just the average normal Joe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I feel like music can invoke violence. I feel like, yes, you're right. If you're violent, violence is there anyway, but I feel like it triggers. It can be a trigger. It can be a trigger. Yeah, it can be a trigger. Definitely can be a trigger. So I feel like as well, what you need to remember is that young people are impressionable, and a lot of these younger men or the younger women in this generation, they are growing up without good, positive role models. So they're looking into music to get their role models, to be honest. They're listening to all that trap, take his money, steal his bag, get your money up, get your body done. This is the kind of music these younger generation of people are listening to, because the younger generation of people, the reality is a lot of them are growing up without fathers in the home, single parent households. They've not got many good positive role models around them, and they're turning to the music to get that influence and that role, that you know, a role model that they can see and want to be. Like, oh, you know what, I want to be just like him. I want to be just like her.
But just, you can't then, so I was agreeing with you, but you can't blame, that's not music's fault if they end up being violent. It's the fact that they're growing up in broken homes, and it's the fact that they've not got
that is the real truth. But however, go on.
Go on. I was gonna say with the music thing. So I was agreeing with you up until then, until you got to that point. Then I started to disagree. But what I would say is music can definitely be, because even me, If I was, let's say I was going to a football match or something, and I was like, I want to be quite aggressive on the pitch today, I'll listen to something to like pump me up. So when I get there, I'm like, all right, yeah, let's go. Like, I want to be fired up. So it definitely can trigger emotions. But if you're, we can't blame music. The actual issue is the broken homes, the lack of father figures, the you know, all the trauma. That those are the real issues. If all of those issues were dealt with, then the violence in music, yes, as Christians, I still don't think we should listen to violence, but there are so many people who aren't Christians in the world, and I'm not going to tell them what to do or how they, and they will listen to that music, and if they, let's say all those other issues are resolved, it's unlikely they are going to be violent, but it's the fact that there's an underlying or something in them that can be flipped to be violent. That thing that's in them shouldn't be there. And that's the issue that we should be attacking, really, as a society.
I mean, as well, you have to remember that it takes a village to raise a family. Yeah, it takes a village to raise a child. What's the saying? A village to raise a child, right? So you have the broken homes, you have the music, you have the friendship groups. Every single one of those things play a part in that child's upbringing.
But should the artist raise the child then? Like, I'm confused.
No, it takes.
Where's the parents?
Yeah, listen, the parents. Listen. People can act like when you were growing up, 90% of the conversations you were having were not with your parents. Let's just be realistic here. Do you know what I'm saying? 90% of the conversations you were having were, even if you came from a good home. Yeah, definitely. I agree with that. But even if you come from a good home,
if your foundation is shaky, then that's when music can start doing the madness. But if your foundation is strong, then music shouldn't really be able to come and rock your world like that.
I'm not saying it's the only thing, but I'm saying it's an addition to multiple things. Okay. So the lack of the father, also the friendship groups that you are around and you surround yourself with, as well as the music. It's not just the music. No, I disagree. Yes, I agree with that. It's not just the music, but I do feel like it does play a part. Because you need to remember, these people are these kids of the day, that they're listening to music 24/7. You cannot escape it. It's 24/7. They've got albums, they've got their earphones in now, you got the iPods, you got this, you got that, whatever things, the Dre beats and whatnot. This is 24/7. It doesn't stop for them. Do you know what I'm saying? Even at work, they're listening to little something. So that's the thing. Like, you need to remember that. So this is 24/7. They're listening to this hustle, get money, get bad, you know, women, whatever. Do you know what I'm saying? This and that 24/7. No role model in the house and no positive male influences or female influences are over them. So what are they going to do? The next role model they're going to look to is these rappers, is these rap stars, is these artists. No one can tell me that they've
never...
That's
not the artist's fault, though.
It's not. It is the artist's fault. I'm sorry.
No,
people need to stop. No. Listen, when you
the artist's not the artist's fault.
It's the artist's fault. Yes, it is.
It's not their fault. It's not.
What's it called? Fisayo, have you read Mace's book? You know when he became a pastor?
Yeah.
Let me tell you. Listen, let me put a little something to you guys now. Yeah. When you read Mace's book, if you ever got time to read Mace's book, when he changed his life and became a pastor, the first thing he was saying was that God kept on calling him because his music was leading people to hell. And that was one of the first things that God had told him, that your music is leading people to hell. I don't want to go too deep in it. I don't want to get anyone shook. But anyway, it was leading people to hell. So he was basically saying that, you know, and you know, Mace's music is probably not even as bad as what it is today. Like, today's music is 10 times worse than Mace's music, sorry. Do you know what I'm saying? So he was saying that God was saying to him that he was leading to people to hell with his music. So yes, they are responsible. If you put out negative music, yeah, that influences people and changes people's perception in society, you are responsible. I don't care. You're not going to get out of that because
No, you took my point. I wasn't saying that point. My point was, it's not their fault that the child or whoever's listening to it doesn't have role models or family members in the house. That's not the art.
Yeah, that's not their. That's
what I was saying. It's not their fault that families are broken. They might be putting out negative music, and that's something they have influence on. But the fact that someone's mum may have left the dad, or that you're living in poverty, etc., etc., that's not their fault. So we can't blame a child's surroundings on a music artist.
And you can't really blame them for not being role models when they're literally just trying to make the most of themselves out of their own situation.
The moment you step into the music industry, you become a role model. I don't care if you mean to be a role model or not, you become a role model. Yes, you do. If you want to deny that fact, that's up to you. But the moment you are seen, the moment you're faced, like even now as I'm talking, I may not want to be a role model, but whoever's watching me and you and everyone today, do you know what I'm saying? We are now become role models. The moment you put your face to society for a mass, more than one person to hear you, that's what I say, that two or more is gathered in my name, I am there. That's God, right? So the moment you put two or more people in together as a mass-produced, whatever it is, music, sound, something, video, whatever you want to call it, that means your message is being heard. Whether you want to be a role model or you don't, that's your problem. But your message is being heard. So you need to make sure that whatever you're putting into the world is something that you're not going to later regret.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. I feel like with the role model thing, you as you say, you would be seen as a role model, but then again, that goes back to families. You should be brought up to know that these people. I always tell people, don't put your stock in these celebrities, these music artists, these actors. Like me personally, I don't really have any role models apart from like my dad and my mum, and that's it. Like, and then even if your dad and mom aren't people to look up to, then unfortunately it is what it is. So like you should be brought up to know that you can't really be having these people as role models. That's how these people be saying, who's that Derek James guy? I bet that's how people be saying he's a role model. Now he's doing absolute madness in dark. So it's like...
Yeah, I agree. To be honest, your parents should raise you for you to have better role models. But ultimately, the way society is, even if you come from a good home, you can still go left. So music is one thing you cannot control. You could be sitting in the middle of the park and you hear someone bumping and grinding in the car next door. You cannot control music. It is everywhere. So even as a parent, you might say, I don't want my son to listen to this. I don't want my son to listen to that. But how are you going to control when he's walking down the street from the home and music is pumping? How are you going to control when he goes out to the shop and there's music pumping? You cannot control music. That is why I'm saying that every musician is a role model, whether they want to accept that or not, because music is so powerfully everywhere. Even if you want to avoid it, you cannot. Therefore, you are at fault if you put out something that is negatively going to affect any generation of children or adults, whoever. Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes, you are. You definitely are. I'm sorry. I don't think that people like to come with that excuse. Artists like to come with that excuse. I'm not a role model. Then don't make music. Then, if you don't want to be a role model, don't make music. If you can make music without even people seeing your face. You can just sing into the mic, and no one has to know who you are. Do you understand? Don't be a role model. You put your face out there for everybody to see. Then you are automatically become a role. You can put, if you really want to sing, if you really want to we just want to hear your music, then sing in the booth. We don't need to see your face. We can black out your screen every time. You can do a video. There was one group back in the day that used to cover their face. I can't remember what they used to be called now. Was it Gorillas or something back in the day? But anyway, there's groups that don't. You understand? If you're just here to make music like you claim, then why do we need to see who you are then? We don't need to know about your lifestyle. We don't care about the cash that you hold. All that. You're selling a lifestyle. You're selling a dead dream to most of these young children or these adults. You're selling a dead dream, because the reality is that 99.9% of these people are not going to make it. That's number one. And number two, you're selling a dead dream because you're leaving people to corruption, whether you want to accept it or not. That's the reality of it. Like even that little Nas, whatever that Nas, what's his name now? Little Nas? Have you seen his new 666?
I've purposely not watched it.
Yeah,
have you seen that? Listen, even that guy needs deliverance. Hardcore deliverance. Do you understand? It's not things like that are not okay. Do you understand? Because the funniest thing is that people will probably see that as an extreme. But the reality is there isn't much difference in what he's saying and what all this sleep with 150 women, get money. There's not much difference.
I agree. To be honest,
there's not much difference.
So does that harks back to the beginning? Then should Christians listen to secular music then?
No.
No, that's where you stand. No.
No, they shouldn't. Unless you're self-aware so aware. Like me, I can listen to anything and I don't get bothered about it. I'm not. The thing about me
that
is
little Nas X thing wouldn't trigger you.
I wouldn't even listen to that anyway. That's not even my kind of style. Do you understand? But if I was to listen, let's say for instance, if I was to listen to something like Cardi B or whatever, I don't even get triggered by her music. It's just like I like one thing about me. I just like beats. I like bass. Boom, 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 like bass. That's what I like. I just like to, you know what I mean? So I'm not even listening to what they're saying. I don't even have a clue what they're even saying. Most of the time, I'm just starting to dance. That's it. You can't even tell me what song, what's the lyrics to this song or whatever. I'll say I don't even know. Because it's not that deep for me. Do you get what I'm saying?
I have a question to actually about, the whole Little Nas X. Do you think Christianity is to blame for that song?
He don't.
No. So, okay, what do you mean? Are you saying that Christianity's become too soft and that
no.
for him to even think he can make them? Or are you saying that, what are you saying, sorry?
When he came out as being gay, he received thousands of death threats. Not even just death threats, but it's like even people who said, oh, you're going to hell, you're a sinner, God hates you, that kind of stuff. Even on like his next song following that, it was like a Christmas song. He still had thousands of comments which would still be like, oh, you're going to hell for being gay, even though that song had nothing to be had anything to do with sexuality. That was him just being him, and he was talking about Christmas to children. Do you feel like the way some Christians go about being Christian is the reason why some people are so aggressively fighting Christianity? And that we preach that we're supposed to just love everyone. We're supposed to have that love. We're supposed to be accepted. And Jesus said, love thy neighbor as thyself. He without sin cast the first stone. Yet Christians still don't openly admit our own wrongdoings. Like there's like pedophilia in like the Catholic Church and stuff like that. And that's still constantly being hidden. And that's being hidden. Like it's not being like, if it's seen, named and shamed instantly and condemned. Do you think that kind of hypocriticism in the Christianity is the reason why people are so actively fighting against Christianity?
Okay, to answer that, I would say it's definitely a factor. It's definitely a factor. So I feel like a lot of people have been, I wouldn't say Christianity, I would say more the church is the institution of Christianity. Christianity in itself is actually like, it's always going to be pure. It's always going to be love, as you said, love thy neighbor as thyself. It's always going to be welcoming. So if you're a real Christian, you're not going to be in Nas's comments saying kill yourself and all of that, because already you're not a Christian, because you're going against what you should believe in.
Yeah.
But the institution of the church, which I believe can be very judgmental and can make a lot of its followers judgmental, I think that has definitely contributed to not only him, but as you said, a lot of other people maybe turning their back on religion, going another way, or doing things that actively fighting against Christianity. And I feel like if that institution could pattern up and could just see the errors in its own ways more, like why is it taking so long to out pedophiles? It's ridiculous. Why are people claiming to be Christians who go to church in people's comment sections giving them abuse? So that institution, I think that is, definitely that has, that's contributed to the things that we're seeing now. And we can't even be shocked when we see it, because like, if we're going to be acting crazy, what do you really, the other side is also going to act crazy.
Yeah, I agree with you actually, to be honest. I feel like it's a case of religion versus faith again. Do you understand? If you're a spiritual, faithful Christian, then you wouldn't be making comments like that in the first place. And if you're what I would classify as religious, the religious so-called Christian, that's all about religion, rather than actual what God was saying and what his teachings actually were, then you would have that view, 100%. Now, I classify myself as more spiritual and more like a faith kind of Christian than I am more religious kind of Christian. So I wouldn't condemn Lil Nas for being gay. I wouldn't condemn him for whatever. Listen, I don't condemn anyone. It's none of my business what you do. It's you that's gonna face your Lord and Savior when you die. That's not, I got my own things I need to deal with myself. You understand what I'm saying? So do you understand? Everybody's got their own sins they need to deal with. When I die and it's my time for judgment, boy, I've got a lot of begging. So at the end of the day, everybody has his or her faults. Nobody can sit here and say to someone else, you were like this, you're going to, who are you to tell anybody that you are going to hell? You are not in any position to tell any human being that they are going to hell, even if they are a murderer. You are in no position whatsoever to tell anybody. Nobody has that judgment. Nobody has that foresight apart from God. I don't believe in that at all. Do you get what I'm saying? I do believe, though, that when wrong is wrong, you have a right to tell the person that this is what you're doing is wrong. Yes, I do. But not to condemn them when you're telling them that their wrong is wrong. Do you understand? So it's just like me now saying, why are you sleeping with this married woman when you know it's wrong? I'm not going to tell you you're going to go to hell. I'm just going to tell you, listen, correct your fault and change your ways. That's it. You understand?
Yeah. So how do we go about making at least a small difference so we can change the way people respond? Because it is quite a big thing where that's the image people have of people who go do like evangelism. Their first thing is, oh, they're just going to tell me I'm going to go to hell. So how?
What, like for me, how dare you tell anyone where they're going? Who are you to tell anybody anything like that? Like you have no right to tell you have no right to tell anybody anything. Like that's number one. Like evangelism. Yeah, like evangelism is meant to be a positive thing. When Christ used to evangelize, it was a positive message. It was good news. That's why they call it the Good News Bible. It's always meant to be a positive thing. It's meant to be good news. You're meant to spread the good news that Christ has died for you. He's here for you. He's your Lord and Savior, and He has your back. Don't worry. We know you're doing wrong, but don't worry. It can all be changed. You can change your ways. Something positive is meant to come out of it. When you're evangelizing, something negative is coming out of it, that means you're not evangelizing in the right way. And you need
I hate that type of evangelism.
Yeah, so do I.
If you don't come to Christianity now, you're going to burn in hell, and I'm not a fan of.
You have no one has any. How dare anybody tell us that? So if you check their closet, some of those people that are telling them people burning hell, they're still fornicating. They're still doing other things. Like, do you understand? Do you get what I'm saying? Who that's it. So it's like, listen, I'm sorry, but I'm so against people telling people they're going to hell. You have no right ever.
What I will say then, as to answer your question, like, what can we do better?
Yeah,
I feel there is definitely still a space of people going up to people to talk to people about Christianity. But I guess it's always going to be, to be better, we just always have to go back to what the Bible says, and we have to be more like Jesus.
Yes.
And Jesus always came on the peaceful tip, always came on the love first. Yeah. And so I was in certain comment sections and people were like, oh, this would never happen in Islam. And I was just looking at it, well, Christianity is a wider religion with a lot of denominations. Not everyone agrees with everyone else, firstly. But then on top of that, we can't come out and just start criticizing and put out death threats and say this and say that. We have to show people like him, Little Nas, love. And by showing him love, by saying, okay, what you did there was wrong, but if you can change your ways, or this is where over here, we've got a lot of love for you. Over here, we do things like this, and there's space for you over here. Like you don't have to do everything you're doing. You come and join us where there's still peace, there's still harmony, we're still happy. Like we can take all of the bad things you've done, we can put them to one side and we'll still accept you. And that's the attitude that we all need to come with, in my opinion.
1,000,000%. At the end of the day, the most important commandment is to love thy God with thy heart, thy mind, and thy soul. That means the first and most important commandment is about love. The second most important commandment is to love thy neighbor like thyself. That means most of what the 10 commandments, the most important 2 commandments are all about love. Loving thy God and loving thy neighbor. And if you cannot love your God and love your neighbor, then you're not serious and you're not ready to be a Christian, and you're not ready to spread a good and positive message, to be honest. You're not serious. How are you gonna, if you can't deal with the most important commandments first, how are you gonna deal with the rest?
Like one step at a time.
One step at a time. Like, and the funniest thing is, if you stick to those first 2 commandments, all the rest of the commandments will fall into place very easily, without even effort. If you're able to love your God with your heart and mind and soul, and you're able to love thy neighbor like thyself, everything else will fall into place, because it's that fear of God, that fear and that love of God that will allow you to not commit murder, not to, steal, not to do whatever. It's that fear, that love, and that love for thy neighbor that will not allow you to even, if you love your neighbor, you're not even going to want to steal from your neighbor. You're not even going to want to kill your neighbor. You're not going to want to do that, because if you genuinely love your neighbor, you're not going to want to do those things to them anyway.
Okay. Well, I guess that's anything else you want to add, Michael?
I think that's a good place to round up. That we just need to show more love. That we need 100%. We need to be those Christians who show more love.
Love, peace and love. Michael, are you listening? Peace and love. Peace.
Always, right?
We'll start off with music. I know you can love. Maybe we can listen to love music. I don't know.
I hear love. I hear love and drill sometimes.
But yeah, I guess we're out.
Thank you so much, guys. I've got to go. Peace out, A-Town. No joking.